So, MCU Spider-Man 4 has been all the craze as the upcoming Tom Holland movie proves to have the potential to be something great. No Way Home gave us an ending that we're all satisfied with, or at least most of us are, with a direction for the character that is universally agreed upon to be the right one. In the next installment in the MCU franchise of Spider-Man films, we expect brand new characters to be introduced. Some are villains, such as Scorpion and Kingpin. You have your side characters like Miles Morales and Harry Osborn, who have both been rumored to appear in the next film as well. However, there are rumors that potentially we could get to see an anti-hero type character, such as Black Cat. Black Cat is an interesting character for many reasons. In fact, she's one of the few characters in the collection of rogues that has a fascination with Spider-Man and Spider-Man only. Now, although many good Spider-Man stories have revolved around Peter Parker due to the intimate and personal connection you get by telling a story through Peter's personal life, Black Cat ceases to have this type of connection most of the time. In fact, many iterations of the character, and where I believe her to be at her best, is when she is only infatuated and tied to the story of Spider-Man and not Peter Parker. And let's be honest, who wouldn't be infatuated with Spider-Man over Peter Parker? Come on, guys. Either way, in this video, I'm going to be working with this idea and tell you guys how I would do Black Cat in MCU Spider-Man 4. And then at the end of the video, I'd like you guys to tell me in the comment section down below how you'd write it too. Before we continue, I want to ask you a question. Do you enjoy watching Spider-Man and MCU content on YouTube? If so, then Lewis Unlimited is for you. With a vastly affordable price, you can get everything from exclusive bonus content, early access to new videos, influence over upcoming videos, and much more. If that sounds appealing by any means, go unlimited today. You won't regret it. Okay, back to the video. So, first of all, what is her relevance in the story? Where does she fit in with Spider-Man? Every side character in the next MCU Spider-Man film has to have some relevance to where Peter is at in his life. She can't just appear randomly because why not? She actually has to have a reliable and possibly flawed motif for her appearance. Her overall reason for being in the story will be the representation of Peter escaping his personal life. For me, MCU Spider-Man 4 should tap into the idea of Peter Parker becoming less and less. Since no one knows who he is, I'd like a story that tries its best to hide Peter Parker away. Peter's arc needs to be that he overcomes and realizes that he can't just push away what makes him Peter Parker, because what makes him Peter Parker makes him Spider-Man. It's the moral and ethical high ground that Peter stands on that makes him who he is as Spider-Man. So the more that Peter tries to close that part of his life away, the more distorted and unrecognizable Spider-Man will become, which would be really interesting. You could honestly do this story through the symbiote, but I think this would be perfect to give it to someone like Felicia Hardy as the representation of Peter closing himself away. Felicia Hardy's character would parallel Peter in this movie. However, Peter and Felicia will never get to know each other personally, rather they would meet under the aliases of Spider-Man and Black Cat. Black Cat would be fascinated by the secret identity of Spider-Man, and how Peter never tells anyone who he is. Felicia will find this relatable, and thus become interested in Spider-Man as a person. Not who he is as Peter Parker, but who he covers himself up as. She will be interested in the mask, and nothing else. Slightly deviating from Black Cat, but I'd also like to introduce the idea that Peter's personal life just keeps getting worse. Now, I mentioned that Peter will try and hide away from being Peter Parker as long as humanly possible, and I think this story, if it is to appear in MCU Spider-Man 4, would be the perfect story to introduce Black Cat under. But we can't just say that it would be the perfect story, we actually have to show why this would be the case. I would introduce the idea that Peter is trying to do better, and he's trying to get his life back on track. But because of Spider-Man, which he constantly goes back to like an addiction, he is failing his class in college. He has no friends, even though he might still admire the people he used to know from afar. He also can't keep a stable job, he can't pay rent, and overall his life will just suck, really. Plus, he will be alone, which is why he keeps escaping to the world that Spider-Man gives him to operate in, which is then when we enter Black Cat. This is why Peter will keep going back to Black Cat even though it acts as an unhealthy addiction. Black Cat is infatuated with Peter for being Spider-Man, not for who he is as Peter Parker. During Act 2, I'd put a romantic twist on it too. They would become romantically involved with one another purely off the basis that this acts as an escape. They're not really in a loving relationship, not the same way Peter was with MJ in Spider-Man No Way Home. But how would you redeem both characters? Don't worry, I'm getting there. This is where I would introduce one of two characters. Honestly, either one of these could work, but I'm just throwing ideas out. Either MJ back into the story, or I'd introduce Carly Cooper. Now, both could work in this role. I'd really like to bring back the Zendaya version of MJ, as I think the past that she has with Peter would be great for an impact on this story. But since I think reintroducing her too early could lessen the impact of the end of No Way Home, and I think that a lot of you also think the same thing, I think introducing someone like Carly Cooper could actually work really well. Now, if you don't know who Carly Cooper is, essentially it's the love interest Peter had from the Dan Slott run of the Spider-Man comics. She was the main love interest after One More Day, which I probably think is why she isn't as popular as the likes of MJ or Gwen. But nonetheless, she is a love interest from Peter's adult life in the comics, so I think she'd be a good fit here. I would introduce her as either a college student or someone that Peter meets at the Daily Bugle, for example. They would get to know each other, and during Act 2, when Peter is truly at his lowest, Carly will act as a lifeline for Peter's personal life. Remember, at this point in the story, Peter has tried and tried again to pick his personal life up to no avail, which is when Carly comes along. Now, this is great and all, introducing Carly Cooper, but how the hell does this fit into Black Cat's character? Well, Carly and Felicia will be polar opposites of one another, and both of their characters will represent a different aspect of Peter's personal life at the same time. Felicia, like Peter, will not have her life in order. She's a cat burglar because she needs to escape her personal life. At which point, we would reveal the death of her father, Walter Hardy, which ended up sending Felicia down the dark path to the point in which we meet her in the film. We will also reveal that this drove Felicia's family apart. Her and her mother ended up falling out and are disconnected, and a lot of emphasis will be placed on how much this has affected her character. This obviously won't be revealed straight away when we meet her in the film, but will be revealed later on in the film, once the cross-junction of Carly Cooper starts to be introduced. At first, Felicia will act as this addiction for Peter, as someone that it feels like Peter can't escape from, and we will understand as an audience that this is bad for Peter, but as the film goes on, we'll start to see that there is more to Felicia than meets the eye. There is more to her character, and she has a lot more emotional depth than we first initially realized. The big reveal for Felicia's character emotionally will actually be the fact that she was using Peter as much as Peter was using her. But this is where the contrast with Carly Cooper will come in. Carly's life will be near perfect. She will have inner flaws, but her social life will be intact. She'll have a great job, she'll have her own apartment, she'll basically be living the life that Peter wants to live. So the second half of the film will be transitioning Peter away from Black Cat to Carly Cooper. And during this transition period too, Felicia would slowly start to realize through Peter's transformation that she too needs to get out of this dark space. And by the end of the film, once everything is tied up, I would reintroduce her mother in the present day and have them connect over the untouched grief of her father, thus rounding up her character nicely in a parallel sort of way to how we did Peter's character. Either way, this type of character arc, redeeming both Peter and Felicia, I think would both complement each character very nicely. Peter would have someone to bounce off of in the first half of the film, while we really showcase how alone he is becoming, and how he uses Black Cat as an escape. But then we would also reveal that Black Cat is also using Peter as an escape, as we reveal more about her character. Either way, I feel like Peter and Felicia would really complement each other with their character arcs in this film. Now that's it for her personal inner character arc, but what would be her purpose in the film in terms of externally representing the character? Well, I think in terms of her characteristics, I think the flirty nature of Black Cat from the comics works really well in this version here. I know there have been rumors that if Black Cat is to show up in MCU Spider-Man 4, that she would be toned down for these movies, and that's completely fine. I just think that that version from the comics works really well here. You could also twist it in a way in which Felicia herself is in no way anything like Black Cat when it comes to her flirty nature. Kind of like how Peter Parker is when he puts on the mask. He quips and he says things in a more confident tone than he would if he was Peter Parker. I think since we are paralleling both of their arcs here in this film, I think that would work really well as well, because it would also represent that they both have something to hide, and they represent that through quipping and whatever else it may be. In terms of her place in the story, I would probably have her be hired up by the Kingpin and tie her up in the criminal underworld that it looks like the MCU is crafting through the likes of Hawkeye and Daredevil. It would be interesting to see her transition to a fully fledged hero too if she ends up rebelling against Wilson Fisk. How would she first meet Spider-Man? Probably through robbing a store. I know that sounds really cliche and like boring. I don't know, just it's Felicia Hardy, right? You know, I don't know. But this could also be a really cool avenue to introduce the symbiote as well. We know the symbiote was left by Venom at the end of No Way Home in the MCU. And obviously, I don't really want them to use the symbiote in the first MCU Spider-Man 4 movie in the next trilogy, just because I think it's a bit cheap. I think it's a scapegoat. I think Peter's character should just be left alone for at least one movie, just to do his own thing. But if the symbiote is to be introduced, this could be a cool way to do it. You could have Felicia be set out by Wilson Fisk or someone of the like to steal the symbiote, potentially from, I don't know, Oscorp or whatever the big corporation is that's holding it in the MCU Spider-Man 4. So yeah, that could be cool, I guess. Either way, that is how I'd introduce Black Cat in MCU Spider-Man 4. I really like the idea of her being a character that solely likes Spider-Man for who he is when he wears the mask. And I think it's a character that has a lot of rich emotional depth to be explored, which I'm quite frankly really surprised that she hasn't actually appeared in a live-action Spider-Man movie before. Either way, her character is a good additive for Peter's character too, and I think there is a lot of things that you can do with the character that is quite good really, and something a bit different. Either way, thank you for watching this video. If you did enjoy, make sure to hit that like button. Also, make sure to join the members page as well. For as cheap as 99 pence a month, you can get every single video that I post early on the channel. And with that being said, make sure to subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you do not miss another Spider-Man video in the future. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care, and peace.